Today I wanted to dive into one of my best pieces of content, which is the 6 type of entrepreneur procrastinators. Did this on the podcast the other day. She absolutely loved it and I cannot wait to share it with you today. You are going to love this. Let's go straight in. The first one is the avoider. Now, the avoider is the type of entrepreneur procrastinator who tends to just avoid getting stuff done. Like, you know what you need to do. You know you have to write the marketing copy. You know you have to update the website, but you'd much prefer to look at a YouTube video, go on Clubhouse, do something different, write that bit of code, right? So there's those elements that you know you should do. Don't do them. You avoid them at all costs. So the avoiders, and the challenge there is that they avoid the most important tasks in the business. And very often, as a creative entrepreneur, someone who's very creative and really loves what they do, you don't get to the most important tasks in the business. And what's so important is that you really understand what tasks you can do and actually follow through with them, as opposed to avoiding them. Yeah, an example of this is there was a lady that I worked with who ran a marketing agency, and she started to push everything out. She used to do everything, but she didn't do any content online, right? So she had the opposite problem. She was doing all this marketing, but there was nothing that she was creating that was new. And she didn't like sitting down, she didn't like doing it, so she avoided it at all costs, and it was detrimental to her business. So make sure that you aren't the avoider and you move forward in a different way. Now, if you aren't an avoider, maybe you are a dreamer. Now, dreamers believe they don't have to do anything in order to be successful. Like, I'm very good at what I do. There are people that build these beautiful houses in the middle of nowhere and expect people to come, right? And the challenge there is you can do all this, you can have the best product in the world, but if people don't know about it, it doesn't matter. And these dreamers procrastinate because they don't follow through on the tasks that they have to do. They only do things that they really actually enjoy. And then they're just dreaming, thinking, oh, I hope at some point things are going to happen. And they're left in that sort of dream world. Now, these first two are very often the creatives, the artists. These are kind of business owners who love what they do. They're very, very artist-like. They just enjoy it. You wouldn't even have to pay them and they'd love it. And their challenges are avoider and the dreamer. Next, we're going to go on to the type of business owner who's more system-focused. These are the more tech entrepreneurs. These are my developers. These are my system-orientated people, the guys that love to set up their automations. You'll probably struggle with one of these two. The first one is the perfectionist. That's right. Trying to get everything to be right? You become obsessed with getting everything to be perfect. You want to get that piece of code perfect, do that perfect. But the challenge is, by always wanting things to be perfect, it stops you doing other things properly. And I'll give you an example. There's a guy that I worked with called James. He's a tech developer, unreal, so good at what he does. Why? Because he's a perfectionist in code. If you're a perfectionist in code, but you can't overcome that challenge in other areas of your business, you're going to procrastinate. Because you don't know all the different factors and variables in marketing. You can't possibly know that. Nor do you know these other elements that will always be variables that you can't control. So what happens is there's this analysis paralysis, you don't get stuff done, and you don't move forward in a sustainable way. And when James and I met, he said, marketing is my biggest challenge. But that wasn't it. He was procrastinating on marketing, so he thought it was his biggest challenge. But really, it was perfectionism. It was this type of procrastination that stopped him from really moving forward in a way where he could be much, much more sustainable and his business would thrive as a result. The second type of entrepreneur procrastination that system managers and these system-focused people often struggle with is the worrier. Not the warrior, as in not a fighter, but as in a warrior, someone that worries a lot, okay? And how it works is the following. This is where they'll set an intention, I want to do that, but there'll be that fear. What happens if this doesn't work? What happens if this fails? What happens if I release this update and it doesn't work? What happens if suddenly I do that and it's a disaster? And what happens is there's lots of anxiety around there. So what happens is you're not going to follow through on tasks because there's just that fear there that, oh, I don't know. So what will happen is you'll probably have a lot of unfinished projects, things that kind of move forward, they went out, and then you just started worrying a little bit, and then you fell off track and you decided to do something different. So this is very, very important to overcome, because if you're stuck in your head and you're worrying, you won't be able to move yourself forward where you really understand how to move your business in a level to really help you move forward. So we've discussed the avoider, the dreamer, the perfectionist, and the worrier. Next, we're going on to the third kind of type of business owner, which is the business creator. These are people that love creating businesses. It's their favorite thing. They create business after business. They love taking on new ideas. When I was chatting to a lady the other day, she says, I like to build bridges to different projects. You're the bridge builder. You love building stuff, right? Now, there's two types of procrastination that you will struggle with, okay? Now, the first one you'll probably recognize, the crisis creator. It's suddenly you've got all these different projects to do and you're completely overwhelmed and you have no idea where to start. What happens is you tend to just chill out for a week, and then suddenly there's a deadline and you're like, oh shit, now I need to get stuff done. So you start moving yourself forward, you start doing all these different elements because now it's a priority. So you have to have a deadline in order to get things done. And you find it's very hard to be consistent. You're having these periods of extreme growth of like, oh my God, I need to do this. I've got like 2 hours left in the evening to try and get that done. And then you'll have like a few days off and chill out. Or you'll fill it with starting new projects and trying to do these different things. So the crisis creator is someone that needs to be managed, right? You need to avoid that type. And the best way to do that is to start setting mini deadlines, doing things differently, and avoiding that crisis and causing a lot of unnecessary stress. Now, the last type of entrepreneur procrastinator is, you think I should get this straight away, the Novelty Explorer. There we go. Now, the Novelty Explorer is someone that loves doing new things, new projects, new elements. They're constantly building those new bridges. Now, you're maybe thinking, well, this isn't a type of procrastination. This is me being proactive. Is it though? Because what I've found, right, and I'll give you an example. There's a client that I work with out in China. She had her own education company, 30, 40 different employees. And what we found is that because she was doing so many different projects, she was spreading her company very thin. When we looked into the revenue generating parts of her company, there was one section that was bringing in 90% of the revenue and it only cost like 15% of the business. So I was thinking, what the hell is happening to the other 85%? All the different other projects that she had going on. So what was happening is she spent so much time doing all these other things, exploring, she was procrastinating and actually self-sabotaging her own business success because she's spreading herself so thin on all these different things and she's lacking focus. For business creators, focus is the key. It's not getting drawn out by all these different things. It's having that focus, moving things forward sustainably, because otherwise you're going to fall off track. So let's just quickly go through them. So we had avoider, we had the dreamer, perfectionist, the warrior, we had the novelty explorer, and crisis creator. So now that you've identified these 6, what's important is being able to overcome them, right? So something that I've done is I've put together a procrastination worksheet. So there should be a link below. If you can't find it, drop us an email and just go, can I have the procrastination worksheet? I've literally made a worksheet to help you overcome these types of entrepreneur procrastination. So check it out. I really hope you find it helpful and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.